One can endlessly rhapsodize the diversity and wealth of Kazakhstan nature. For centuries, its mountains, steppes, deserts and woods have been the best friends of those striving to conceive the native land. It replied with love to love and gave food, shelter and protection to those who truly felt it. The changing times may have altered our way of life, but some things remain unchanged. As before, our nature is generously sharing with us everything that it has. Whereas in early days, biological diversity and landscapes mostly attracted hunters and conquerors, today it is tourists who are becoming increasingly fascinated with our nature. The permanent outdoor Kazakhstan expedition invites you to take part in the extreme photo safari together with a group of Spanish filmmakers and see the most picturesque corners of Kazakhstan. No matter how thoroughly one prepares for an expedition, scrupulously considering all potential needs, once already on the road, the weather and other circumstances inevitably make their adjustments. Our team this time is a bunch of tough guys, strong and tempered with cold snaps and other travel hardships. Nevertheless, the snowstorm appeared stronger than us and we were forced to cancel our trip to Karatau. The new plan was thrown onto the table and approved without any delay. The photo safari filmmakers / travelers are heading to Kungay Alatau. The night snowfall has slightly powered the road and thus we have to go slow. The picturesque landscapes around us compensate all the inconveniences more than enough. With the first sunlight piercing the morning haze, we see the silhouettes of the Charen Alatau summits. Just look at the flecks of sunlight playing and jumping on reed grass seed blocks coated with thick frost dew. One simply cannot help the temptation of capturing this incredible beauty. Everything around is pleasing to the eye. Horses grazing in the mountain foothills and the ocean of steppe herbs feeding the animals almost all year round. The pastoral scenery greeting us is endless and it is really hard to stop admiring it. But we have to get back on the road. As the expedition advances eastwards, the surrounding landscapes gradually change, becoming more and more deserted. The road that we chose to follow snakes along the Sugati mountain range and goes down to the Sugati Valley. The plain, stretching between the two ridges of Boguty and Toray Ger, looks ideally flat. Small and crushed stones appear to be the only things disturbing the evenness of the place. However, let's not hurry with conclusions as horses seem to feel very comfortable here. For some reason, the area around has close to ideal conditions for horse breeding. Here comes the Kokpak Pass. This is the place where travelers, as a rule, make a stop to take a bite in one of the inexpensive roadside cafes and rest before the next bound. A lot of long-distance trucks is an excellent indicator of a good place to eat. Let's see what's on the menu today. The usual popular dishes like lagman, pilaf and sopa. After the stop, we continue with the journey with the Boguty mountain range to the left of the road. The southeast spurs of Charen Alatau cannot boast of such magnificent coniferous forests as exist in the central zones of the ridge. But local dwellers, both humans and animals, appear to be satisfied with the modesty of local landscape. Teke mountain goats are among local masters, and their population makes up around several hundred heads. One part of this mountain massif, the dry and rocky slopes of which were picked by Teke as their habitat, belongs to Charen State National Nature Park. This is why the animals feel themselves so good, free and protected here. As a rule, the herds of these graceful Capricorns spend their summer on luscious mountain pastures of the Charen Alatau and in the fall migrate to low and dry mountains of Toray Ger and Boguty. The snow cover there isn't usually thick and dense and winters are generally much milder. Nevertheless, several groups of Teke goats spend winter right there on snowless cliffs of the Charen River. Onwards, our route crosses the Toray Ger mountain massif and descends to the Joly Valley, split into two parts by the deep canyon of the Charen River. The celestial and sweeping views and landscapes around make us speechless. We decided to change our route slightly to be able to hit the Yellow Canyon also. We couldn't miss its beauty. We made some nice photos and videos. Everybody's happy. Jibek Canyon, Red Rocks or Yellow Rocks. These are all the names of the same place. The canyon runs on the right-hand side of the Charen River a couple of kilometers away from the highway. The Charen, squeezed by steep and abrupt walls, forms a deep canyon capable of impressing anybody who comes here with its beauty and mightiness. The Kyrian Canyon is often referred to as the younger brother of the Grand Canyon in Colorado, and for a good reason. Deep on its bottom, you can hear the rage of the capricious mountain river. However, once it escapes the rocky prison and throws itself out of the gorge into the spacious valley, it immediately calms down and turns into a tranquil and peaceful tributary of the floodplain Ili River. We have reached the Charen Canyon. It is below zero outside, but there is plenty of sunshine. We made this stop with our Spanish friends to capture a panoramic view of the Charen Canyon. The short autumn day goes by quickly. It is 5:30 in the evening, but the sun is already sliding behind the mountain tops of the Kungay Alatau. It is high time to think about lodging for the night. We decide to spend the night in the Sati settlement. The settlement of Sati is located right on the bank of the Chilek River and hosts the administration of KOLSAI National Nature Reserve. Previously, tourists almost never came here. With time, the place started to attract more and more nature admirers, and the locals started to develop tourist infrastructure to be able to monetize their convenient location. It's no Ritz, but it serves the purpose. As of today, you can see several tourist houses, a couple of cafes, and a couple of places to rent horses for horseback rides in the mountains. So we choose one of the vacant guest houses and come in to talk to the owners. It is warm, comfortable and rather cheap, which is always pleasant. The early morning greeted us with abundant sunshine, although the temperature has sharply dropped during the night. The crispy morning is a surprise for our Spanish colleagues. Something to remember. Our goal is the KOLSAI Lakes. The first one is located 12 kilometers away from the settlement. We are approaching a specially protected zone, which means that we need to be issued a pass to be able to cross the checkpoint. Admission is not free. The money collected from tourists like us goes for maintenance and upkeep of local recreation facilities. In the summer, the KOLSAI Lakes Nature Park is a popular tourist destination. Currently, it is low season and the only people we meet on the way is a couple of park rangers. Our Spanish guests seem to like this charming silence and absence of people.
It's been quite an experience working here in Kazakhstan, especially at this time of the year with all the snow, all the ice. It's really impressive, the combination of nature, landscapes, and so beautiful things we've seen here, and we have the opportunity to shoot. Thanks to the work of Costa and the rest of the team.
The first KOLSAI Lake is located 1,800 meters above sea level. In summertime, tourists usually follow the hiking track connecting it with the second and the third lakes, located 2,300 and 2,700 meters above sea level respectively. An ancient caravan road follows the lake's coasts. This is one of the ways that ancient merchants used to reach the Issyk-Kul Lake, presently located on the territory of Kyrgyzstan. In 1865, Pyotr Petrovich Tianshansky, a Russian local historian and researcher, took this course and put together an orographic description of the KOLSAI Gorge. The name KOLSAI derives from two Kazakh words, Kol, which means lake, and Sai, which means green gorge. Indeed, the sharp contrast between Tukua's lake surface and green coniferous forests on surrounding slopes causes an invariable delight among photographers and nature enthusiasts. In winter, the scene is different, but not less picturesque. Our Spanish friends are excited about the weather and the winter in general. They have snow only rarely and of course never saw so much of it. They have to walk in the snow up to their waist, but they still love it. It's a true adventure for them. They shoot everything they see around. Noble Siberian deer or marals, take mountain goats, roes and boars find their habitat in mountain coniferous forests around the KOLSAI lakes. The lord of the snowy mountain summits, snow leopard, takes its blood toll of the animal kingdom. No doubt the Spanish friends broil with impatience to film wild animals, but it is not that easy at this time of the year.
Наших испанских друзей о том, что шанс снять снежного барса у них незначительный.
We warned our Spanish guests that although theoretically there is a chance of seeing snow leopard, in reality it is very small.
Тогда ему говорили, ты его снял случайно, но на что он отвечал?
About 10 years ago, one of my clients from the UK managed to capture a snow leopard on his camera. He came here specifically for that, and it took 3 days of waiting to have a glimpse at it. We got really lucky. It is hard to meet snow leopard. It never comes out by request, so to say. This animal is the king of the mountains. You cannot just come and film it. Crowned heads require courting.
Поклониться многолетней работе, и тогда, может быть, он снизойдет и покажет себя оператору. Но не каждому оператору выпадает такое счастье.
According to the last survey, about 15 snow leopards live in KOLSAI National Park. Modern monitoring methods using photo traps allowed the scientists to say that snow leopard population of Kungay Alatau is in fact much larger than was previously thought. The thing is that these cats are so secretive and sneaky that even only a couple of locals can boast of seeing it, although they have been living here all their lives. Its ability to hide is second to none. Everything is interesting to our Spanish guests. They are bursting with delight and questions. Using the interpreter, they ask a senior shepherd to tell them something about the place. Have you ever seen a snow leopard? Once upon a time, yes. The old guy is more than concise in his replies. Or maybe twice, but it was a long time ago. Are there any wolves here? Have you seen the wolves? Oh, there are plenty of wolves. They killed a sturk about a month ago, complains the old man. It is impossible to leave a herd unattended in these parts. The shepherd offers to show the place where wolves killed the cow, and Joly, the director of photography, accepts the idea with delight. Are we going to see the wolves? No, there are no wolves there now, answers the old man evasively. And where can we film them? Says Joly, not willing to give up. No idea, the shepherd shrugs his shoulders. Having found out that there's no chance of filming the predators, Joly loses interest in the place where the big bad wolves ate the cow, and the expedition continues on its way. Another day full of new impressions flies by, and it is time for us to go back to the base and settle for the night in Sati. A new type of tourism, the so-called community-based tourism, is on the rise in Kazakhstan. Slowly but steadily, the new trend is becoming increasingly popular among domestic and foreign tourists. They come to auls or villages in Kazakh to spend a couple of days living rustic and getting acquainted with local culture, customs and traditions. In other words, fully submerging into the local way of life. The next morning is crispier than the previous one, and the equipment malfunctions in the cold. The batteries lose their juice much quicker, and it takes several attempts to launch the drone. It is below zero, there is fog around. Not very good conditions to work with a drone, as the signal is unstable. We shouldn't be flying the drone camera in this weather, as it is way too risky. But it would be a crime not to capture this beauty. We've got to do what we've got to do. The Spaniards came to the conclusion that their clothes is not sufficiently warm for such weather, but they do not lament their fate. The following expedition's destination is the Valley of Castles in Charen State National Park. It is duly considered one of the most interesting and picturesque sites of the Kyrian Canyon. The way from KOLSAI to Charen takes only several hours. We are driving along the snow-covered Toraygir Ridge, enjoying its view on the left side of the car. Another 15 kilometers of the country road off the highway And we are there. Crossing the checkpoint, we need to register once again and pay the admission fee. At last, we can go into the deeps of the canyon. The local winter beauty is soothing and pleasing to the eye. Saxaul or haloxylon bushes covered with white frost look fantastic. The majority of tourists come here in the summer, when the Valley of Castles is painted with orange, red and golden tones. Now the scenery is absolutely and unexpectedly different. Mysterious snow-covered columns, pillars, towers and pyramids. The silence and snow make the valley look like a ghost city. The river has cut the rocky walls like a layered pie. The scientists read the pictures on the canyon walls like books telling its history. There is no better way to investigate the geological past of the area. Paleontologists are also greatly interested in the place, as the canyon still holds a lot of fossilated remains of woolly rhinoceroses and other representatives of megafauna who lived here millions and millions of years ago. In those days, the climate here was damp and warm, which made the Charen Valley suitable for many tropical species. Tourists call the narrow rocky passage at the bottom of the gorge Scylla and Charybdis. It does take a lot of driving skill to pass under the two huge rocks, forming a beautiful arch. Jorge gives instructions and Konstantin carefully drives the truck, almost scratching it against the rocks. Now that the crevice is behind us, we can go on. The Valley of Castles is so packed with places worth of filming that our operators have no time to eat. We decided to charge our batteries on a glade right on the bank of the Charen, among the gorgeous willows and poplars. Kosti and Jorge have volunteered to be our cooks today. To be able to prepare tea, you need to start a fire and burn a lot of wood. Using such stoves allows minimizing the amount of fuel you need and thus using the forest more sensibly. Very little wood is needed and you can use chips and small branches. Only a couple of minutes have passed, but Jorge and I have boiled the tea with only a few small twigs. Our filming crew is so hungry for shooting that we don't want to waste any time on food. The sun goes down quickly and we still have a lot of things to capture. Only 1 hour has passed, but the canyon bottom is already in the shade. It is not possible to continue shooting as there is not enough light. It's time to get out of the gorge. The way out of the Charen Canyon appeared much more complicated than the way in. Our trucks are skidding on the steep slopes. The operators leave their cameras and, demonstrating good physical shape, push heavy SUVs up the slope. After the third attempt, we finally managed to get them out of the gorge onto the even plateau surface. The reddish rays of the setting sun color Charen in warm tones. The cinematographers call this time regime or critical hours, as the sunset gives the best light. All group members grab their gear and start shooting like crazy. In such moments, professional operators and photographers just lose their mind. Passion, adrenaline and delight take them over completely, as there is nothing more precious for them than a well-illuminated landscape. As the sun quickly descends, Toraigur plunges into the shadows, which means that for tonight the filming is over. But not the expedition. We'll still have a lot of adventures, discoveries and lucky shots waiting for us ahead. Together with our Spanish and Kazakh videographers, we will visit the Altynamel National Park, the Sinning Sand Dune, the multi-colored mountains of Aktau and Katutau, and the Tugay jungles along the Ili River. Stay tuned and you will see many exciting and interesting things. The Spaniards did not notice it themselves how well they have adapted to the expedition daily routine. Gradually, from guests, they have transformed into regular members of our great team. The burdens and pleasures of nomadic life are all shared equally among everybody, which means that the team is prepared for whatever difficulties which may arise as we drive on.